Hi, it's me again. It's Monday, late July 27th, I think it is. And I touched on this a little bit on my last video I did earlier this morning, and so I'm going to discuss this a little bit. And this is I went down a rabbit hole the other day, or yesterday maybe, I think, or the day before, where social media started showing me uh pro foster care groups, and there's just never a chance I'm going to follow a pro foster care group. I am anti foster care. I am 100% kinship care. If there is a like legitimate reason why kids can't stay in a home, um and eventually if they need to be adopted, it should be by family. Children should be put in homes of people they know and love. And CPS has all the false narratives, like you'll give the children back and stuff like that. Not if you're doing your job, not if you're watching and going to the house as periodically as you are legally required to, right? So I want to talk about a few cases of how I know. All right, so one of the foster parents was like, I'm a former foster kid, and I have just one. And she says it barely pays half my mortgage. Okay. Maybe she is legitimately doing it for a right reason, and maybe this one child really can't go home. And that could be you know, a true instance. Um, And no, you're not making a lot of money on one kid. Even if you get, all states vary in what they reimburse or pay a parent for a child. I don't know what they all are in some states. But let's just throw out maybe it's $600 a child, plus food stamps and Medicaid and clothing allowances and stuff like that. Some people sit there and say, well, yeah, this child costs me more in diapers and stuff like that. Well, not every child in foster care is a baby that needs diapers and formula and stuff like that. Sometimes it's a middle school student or a high school student that have way less needs than a baby does. So, yeah, one or two children is not giving you a salary to make bank. Okay. But what does make bank is when you have 8 kids that are foster adoptive children that you're getting stipends for, right? Because even if it's $500 the state gives you, well, that's $4,000 a month. That there's no child or even masses of children that cost $4,000 a month in a lot to take care of. I mean, I raised 4 kids, and back in the day, like I was a single mom for 7 years, and my salary back then was about 40 grand. That's not even 4,000 a month. Um, and then there was times like when I got married and we had 4 children under like 4 children under the age of 12, I think, at that point when we had the 4th child, and the oldest was like maybe 12. Um, yeah, I think like our salaries were not 4,000, probably not even, because there was a lot of times where I worked, he stayed home, he worked, I stayed home, stuff like that. Um, but $4,000 a month if you are stay-at-home mom with the kids and dad works, $4,000 a month is a very very decent income. even if you've got 8 children. But I don't even think any state is as low as $500. So let's say it's a state, maybe like Massachusetts or New York, that gives you $1,000 a month. Then you're talking about you're getting $8,000 a month to have 8 children. And I know there are instances where there are 8 children in a foster home. So we'll talk about there's so there's a case I found that happened last year in Fort White, Florida. And I don't know all the instances, and you can't really believe CPS or the court systems or the police or anything like that because, especially that area of Florida, northern Florida, near the Georgia border, it's so corrupt. It's like massively corrupt. I mean, all of Florida is. And if you don't believe so, take your head out of the sand because Florida is one of the most corrupt states. Colleges have done research on such states as Florida and Texas to find those are like pretty much two, like Florida and Texas fight back and forth to who's the most corrupt state. And if you really pay attention to politics and the courts, you will see that because sometimes they will, throw one under the bus just to make them look like they're on the up and up, but they're not. Okay. So you can't really believe. And this family that I'm going to discuss, and this is all for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. Okay. Um, it's all alleged. And from what I understand, all the charges were dropped anyways. So was that legitimately dropped or through the local corruption dropped? Through CPS dropped? Who knows? I don't know all the situations, all the in and outs. From what I understand, they relocated from Arizona or something like that, but I don't know how long they lived in Florida in that specific area. But their address was put in, and this is how I found out. The house is for sale now, or the mobile home, the double wide mobile home is for sale now. Uh, is that because they realized that a 3 bedroom mobile home is not big enough for a family of 13? Is it because they want to get out of Dodge because they really were not on the up and up? Maybe some of what the children said was true. I mean, some of the children said that they were locked in cages. I mean, were there really cages there? I mean, that's easy to prove. Did you see cages? Right? Um, and I don't know. It's really hard for children to come out and say they were abused. I mean, there can be children who want to hurt their parents or want to get back at their parents and they'll lie to CPS, and that's true. So, and this could be the situation in that case. I don't know. I wasn't there. And like I said, this is all alleged. Uh, but, you know, how many kids said that there was abuse? How many kids said that they were staying in cages? Or were they really descriptive about it? Because I don't, I mean, I couldn't like describe living in a cage if I never lived in a cage. Could you? I mean, you can make stuff up, but I would think smart detectives would sit there and say, this child is not describing what it really is like to live in a cage. We see sometimes in true crime cases where some women, even back as far as like the 70s and 80s, there's been cases of them being locked in cages or locked in boxes under beds, or there was even a case I watched the other day on one of the crime channels about a woman who was kidnapped uh, by a stalker she knew. And I don't think she felt the threat because she let him in her house and then he stunned her, and kidnapped her and brought her to his mother's house at first. And I think she was in like a metal wardrobe or tool shed or something that was on the floor in the garage. And then he purchased or rented a property many states away and had the same thing for her. Luckily, the police found her and found her alive. Amen for that. But I mean, these people who really have been locked in boxes, cages, and stuff can tell you how they feel, taste, smell, that trauma of that would be like believable. I would really think so, at least. So I don't know. Is this, to save face for CPS or for the sheriff's department because they didn't know this was going on? We do know that police departments and CPS covers up a lot of stuff. That's how children end up murdered, is all the cover up. You see bruising on a child. You see black eyes on a child, and these parents tell you some bullshit story, and you buy it. You buy it for all the wrong reasons. So this family, and like I said, I looked up the address, and as I assumed, it was a 3-bedroom mobile home. They could have been 4. I mean, there is, but I did look it up, and it's a 1,600, almost 1,700 square foot house. So, whom lived in the house, as per the news articles, was the parents, 40, 50-year-old parents, and 2 adult children, a 21-year-old male, a 19-year-old female, and then 9 children that were removed. Now, there's different stories as to how many were adopted, foster, or their biological children out of those 9. But nevertheless, if DCF ever thinks, now I do believe that these children may have been adopted from Arizona, I think it was, before they moved to Florida. And I'm not even positive. Like I said, this is all alleged. This is all like newspaper articles, and who knows what's true. But one would tend to think that if you can only afford a 3-bedroom mobile home in Florida, that might have been all you had in Arizona. It was a 3-bedroom. And even who knows how old the 2 adult children were then. But in what world do you think you should give a parent of 5 or 6, say 6 of them were their kids out of 11? Just say 6 of them were their kids. Who thinks that we should give 5 foster children to adopt 5 more children? You've got a 3-bedroom house, and you've got, say, 2 adults, say they share one room. That's not always the case, and I'll tell you about the second and third case, which is I know from personal experience. But what, like, foster and adoptive care is not just trying to squeeze as many kids into a placement as possible. That's not the purpose of it. Almost every state has a law that to take in foster children and adoptive children, you have to be able to afford these children without the help of whatever stipends you get and everything like that. Because, as we all know, especially as of late, there are many instances where government shut down, governments become insolvent, states. I don't know if you all remember during the 2008 debacle, so many states were like in bankruptcy. And it's kind of funny how once CPS started ramping up stealing more children and putting them in foster care, like 90s, 2000s, and stuff like that, how states came out of bankruptcy. That's kind of funny. Is that what caused it? I don't know. It's just a supposition. But we do know that they take away federal funds that could be used for many other things in order to do this. And we also know that most children are going to have behavioral problems when they are ripped from their parents' arms in many instances. If you watch videos, you see that. The police come in and just pull the kid right out of their parents' arms. That's trauma. And that trauma is going to manifest into behaviors. And in, those instances, they're going to turn those children into special needs children. Children's getting therapy, the children's getting medication. They're now special needs children. And what do special needs children bring in? Higher foster reimbursement. I mean, at some point, if you've got 8 kids at $1,000 a whack, what is your reimbursement of $8,000? And also adoption subsidies after the child is adopted. In many instances, if they're deemed special needs, they continue to collect stipends until that child turns 18 or whatnot. Maybe it's even older if they go to college. I don't know. So there's that instance. You have maybe at some point, because if you have a 3-bedroom mobile home in Fort White, Florida, and you've got the 2 adults staying in one room, then you've got a 19-year-old girl and a 20-year-old son, and then various other 9 children. Where the fudge are they sleeping? Where the fudge are they sleeping? Is the 19-year-old girl and 21-year-old girl sharing a bedroom with her brother? And then there's a one other bedroom? Or is the 19-year-old and the 20-year-old sharing those extra 2 bedrooms with 9 other children? So there's 6 or 5 or 8 and 3 or something in those other bedrooms? Come the fudge on. Because children that age, you've got 11 children from the age of 21 to, I don't know how young the youngest was, but a 20-year-old male is going to be different than the needs and the privacy requirements of a 2-year-old male. Same thing goes with a 19-year-old girl and a 3-year-old girl. A 19-year-old girl is going to have her, her period and boobs and stuff like that. And she's going to want privacy. So then where were these other 9 children staying? I mean, there's at a point where, you as a parent have to do better, right? Like, this isn't a third world country. Why are 13 people crammed into a 1,700 square foot 3-bedroom mobile home? That's ridiculous beyond ridiculous. But CPS, DCF, foster care, none of them care. It's all about the money. Money. That's all it's about. Okay, So, if any of you have watched my videos, you know that I've been fighting since 2016 to adopt my grandchildren. They were given to the abusive foster, uh, not foster. They were given to the abusive paternal family. It's well documented that they're abusive, but once again, CPS doesn't care. Once again, they don't. I've told the story about, my grandson saying he was being beaten. Mandated reporters didn't report it. I reported it, and I was told by Florida lawyers, do not come at us again with these in bad faith accusations, or we will jail you. That's what they do. That is what they do. Sorry, I'm angry. I can't do anything. I can't do much in jail. Of course, like, I don't. I mean, if I go to jail, all you bitches come over because I'm going to teach you how to fight DCF. All you bitches come on over because I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how to look up. I'm going to show you how to research. Yeah, put me in jail. Because I will be educating a lot of these parents, educating them, and telling them what to tell their parents, how to fight for these children. That is the tactics they use, and not everyone has a strong constitution like I do. Like, I'm like, I don't give a shit what you say. Hmm. Do I believe that that monster was abusing my grandson? Yes, just like her son was. 100%. And my grandson and granddaughter, the older ones, were not even any way related to them. They were just related to the two younger children. I'm still angry 10 years later. Still so angry. She did everything she could to try and break the bond just as well. Like, cry into the courts when I sent Amazon packages for them. But then, and the other side saying, well, you never sent them shoes and clothes. First of all, you didn't tell me what sizes they were because you did everything you could to keep them away from me. And then when I did send them toys and educational material, you cried to the courts that you did not want me sending gifts to your house. And I'll tell the story about that whole instance of why she hated me so much because I didn't kowtow to her when she wanted my adult daughter and grandchildren out of her house, that I didn't come yank them out like I had legal authority to remove a 3-year-old, like she was a 3-year-old. Like, parents don't have control anymore. Parents do not have legal control of their 20-something-year-old children. Believe it or not. I mean, she controls her son like a little puppet until he gets hooked on drugs and gets arrested and goes to jail. And this time I hear he may be going to jail for life. God answers prayers. Anyhow, so in that situation, and as I mentioned, this is documented in courts, and I'll go over this when I start going through my court records. She had a 3-bedroom house, 1,200 square foot. Her 2 grandsons from another mother were also already living there, like 5 out of 7 days a week, and sometimes 7 out of 7 days a week. Because I know this mother abandoned them a lot because I saw it when they had 2 boys lived with their. She knew he was abusive. She knew he did drugs, and she left her 2 boys there. Her 2 toddler boys with the abusive father, drug addict father. And then there were times when I would go to the house to pick up my grandchildren to bring them to my place for weekends, that the boys would literally be sitting with their backpacks on the back on the couch by the window watching for the mother to come. Hours and hours and hours and hours on end. She'll deny it to this day. But I know what I saw. I sat in their living room while I was getting my grandchildren ready and talking to their parents. The boy sitting there waiting. What time was the mother supposed to pick him up? Oh, 2 o'clock. What time's it now? 5 o'clock. And we would go, literally, we were told what she drove. And we would go to the bingo parlor and find her car there as we were driving home. She was stuck at the bingo parlor. I saw this with my own eyes. So when daddy kept going to prison, and mommy can't be bothered with her kids because she's got a new baby from her third husband in her 30s. That means more to her than her two sons from another husband, husband one. And she's got babies from husband three or four, something like that. And there's other stories. I'll tell other stories. And she can sue me if she wants. She can't prove it. She can't prove I'm lying, but I will. So, and I will talk about that whole case some more too, because it's really messed up. Florida DCF is such a piece of garbage. Anyhow, so this was even mentioned in court. So I know before she got custody of my grandchildren, she had a little 3 bedroom house. And she had a bedroom for her and her husband at the time. She had a sewing room, and then she had a bedroom for the two older grandsons, which are just a little bit older than my two older grandchildren. So when the kids were removed, and this is, like I said, in court testimony from DCF. And one of the bedrooms was the two boys. And then she shared a bedroom. I don't think it's the same bed, but she shared a bedroom with my oldest granddaughter that is not of any biological relationship. My two oldest grandchildren were already in existence before she even met that piece of garbage Bobby Franklin Norris. Um, that's against the law. If you look up the records, and I'll show this. I'll talk about this more, and I'll break it down legally some more. You cannot. People can't share a bedroom with a child over the age of 1. An adult cannot, especially in foster care. The two babies, which were toddler age, infant and toddler age, shared a room with her husband that she hadn't been married to for very long. That is absolutely of zero biological relationship to any of the children. Any of them. He's sharing a bedroom with the two toddlers. And then, so where's my oldest grandson? It's almost 100% assured he was sleeping on the couch. I didn't get any money. She had 4 kids. I didn't get any money. Okay. I don't believe you because DCF even said were giving her money. And DCF was also saying that they were giving her um, clothing allowances and everything like that. And if you watch my videos, you'll see that when I told DCF when they first wanted me to adopt them, I don't want any money from you. I don't need anything from you. We were raising these kids most of their lives, if not all of their lives, and yeah, we're fine. Okay. So, third scenario I want to talk about, also something I know firsthand. All right, so we were under the belief because this is what the story was told, is that the paternal kind of grandmother wanted to adopt the kids. And they were already bonded, so that's why I couldn't. We did not know this. We accidentally found out late 2020, 21, that the children had been adopted. And this was like through my daughter's probation. Um, because part of her probation was she had to part of her probation was she had to keep up with like DCF's plan, and then they found out the children were adopted. That's how we found out. And we didn't even know. We ended up showing up in Texas to the paternal grandparent who I thought still had the kids in Texas. And, we brought a bunch of Christmas gifts because the box prior to Christmas we were sending came back returned, not open, no answer, and nothing. So I had already, like, throughout the year, I just buy gifts and gifts and gifts, instead of doing it all last minute. I just buy it throughout the year, put it in buckets in the closet, wrap it all. Start in October wrapping it because I have a lot to wrap with all grandchildren and children and relatives. I spend like 3 months wrapping presents, so which is good. I love it. I love the way I have everything done. A spreadsheet that says everything has this, how much I've spent on everybody, how much it costs, and stuff like that. And that way I say, oh, okay, I've only spent 150 on this person. I need to up it. And I only spent 75 on this person. I need to up it. I spent 500 on this person. They're good. So I start wrapping. I have a spreadsheet so I remember what gift was bought for what person too. So I label it right. But anyhow, I buy these big canvas bags, Christmas decorated, with these like strings, rope type string, closes them up. And I had probably like 8 bags of those for the grandkids. So we call the police to get a restraining order, and I get the on duty supervisor or the chief of police. I don't remember what it was. It's a very small town. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't the town's police. I think it was the county's police. I'm not 100% positive. But like, they call me back and they're like, that's really weird that you want escort to this house. Because literally, they were there, I think they said 2 days prior for a domestic violence incident. And they had to stay at the house while this same police officer that ended up escorting us stayed and escorted the husband to get his stuff and get out. Which he's like, he leaves her so often and then he goes running back because that's just the little coward, spineless person he is. But anyhow, you know, different strokes for different folks, I guess. But anyways, we went there with the police, knocked on the door because, we thought our grandkids were there. Everything's a secret, right? You would think if she said, I can't have these kids anymore, you take them, you think CPS would have called us and said, okay, well, we need to rehome them now, which is pretty much what they call it, like an animal. Um, no, they didn't call me. But anyways, we went knocking on her door, and this was like it was afternoon. Uh 1, 2 o'clock. I don't remember the exact time. But we knocked on the door. The police officer kind of stood on the curb, make sure everything went okay. We just want to give our grandkids their gifts. That's all we did. We literally drove, you know, 14 hours or something just to give them their gifts because we love them. She's like in a robe. She's drunk as a skunk, like belligerent. And all she's just screaming is, "Get off my lawn! They were adopted. Get off my lawn! They were adopted." And we're like, "Yeah, they were adopted by you." because that's the whole narrative and the whole thing that Judge Anna Maria Garcia put out when she says you can't intervene in this case, you can't get placement, can't adopt them, you can't anything. Completely disobeying the laws, completely covered by the JQC because, well, they're garbage too. And I'll talk about all that later. There's just so much to delve into about this corrupt situation that I have to break it all down with proof to show you all. But anyways, so come 2024, we get approached that okay, your grandson's been in group home for a while. Do you want to adopt him? Blah blah blah. I've also talked about this. I will break this down again because this is going to be a new 1983 case, which I will also break all those down. Just, you got to come back to my channel to see what little scoops of information I have. Anyways, I want to wrap this one up because this one's already over half an hour, taking a while. Okay. So we found out what our grandson's new last name was, which found out which is our granddaughter's new last name. So we did some little search on the social media and we found out who has them. We saw picture proof. We found their addresses, everything. And I will also talk about them lying and evading process service. Another one. I'll show the proof and everything like that. In these pictures we found of this adoptive parent is now I'm not quite sure how big their house. I think they have a 4-bedroom house. And I want to say she's like 37 and he's like 60. So I don't believe they have any of their own children. I don't know if he has children from a prior marriage or anything like that. And I don't know who else lives in the house. He could have adult children like the Fort White people living in the house. Who knows? But when I went through before she like locked me out and she changed her name from her last name, Andrea Blank, to Andrea Sunshine, blah 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 blah. Every time I found her, she's finally like hit herself. I can't find her. I can't see pictures anymore. But when I did go through her social media, she had like, and I know for a fact that it was her because I know what my grandchildren look like, even a few years older. But like I saw Christmas pictures of her with like 8 kids. And like I said, I don't believe they were her kids. Um some of them were different races. So my grandchildren aren't. Um but she had like various different Christmas pictures where groups and groups and groups of children. And from what I did in my research, she's a part-time cop in one of the local communities. So why is this 30-something married to a 20-something-year-old older husband got a boatload of kids in a 3 or 4-bedroom house? It's all for money. Like it's all for money. That's what it is. And we will also talk about them bypassing me and giving them right to foster care. We'll go through all that because it's all about money. It's all about money. And if people have similar situations or people want to disagree with me that it's all about money, I think the majority of people are in the belief that it's corrupt. It's all about money. It's a broken system and things need to change. And only a very small, probably under 10% of foster parents are good, do it for the right reason. Like when I was trying to adopt my grandchildren. I did try to become a foster parent, was denied because I can't make you a foster parent if we're not letting you have these children. You understand what I mean? Um, if I got foster children, this is exactly what I would do. And this is what foster parents should do if they're doing it for the right reason. I would take money for the children that weren't my biological relationship, and I would make trust funds for the children when they aged out to buy a house, to start a family, to buy a car. Because I can afford to take care of children. I did it as a single mom, 3 children, for 7 years, working as a single mom. I took care of 3 children. With a spouse, I can do even better, financial wise. I mean, right now, my husband and I own 2 houses. So, we have some assets that aren't, we're not really wealthy, but we have some assets to fall upon if we needed money. Um, but that's what I think should be done. Or take a little bit of money to help pay for diapers and stuff. But if you have several children and there's a profit, and if you have a dozen children and there's a profit, then you're a scumbag. Because you're not even doing it for these kids. You're not. You're not. Because if you're not investing in trust funds for these children and you're buying expensive cars, expensive clothes, expensive nails, and stuff like that. And as you all see, I don't get my nails done. I don't get nothing done. I'm not shallow that way. I'd rather save money to have assets for my children and grandchildren because my grandchildren, even though they're adopted, I'll still leave them in my will. And something tells me that, and I'm almost positive that they'll all come back and they will know that I fought for them. And they will know that their adoptive monster, they're not mothers, they're monsters. And you'll never convince me. I will never, yes, savior, yes, hero to a foster parent because they will cut out family. They know, she knows I sent them a box every month to the tune of several $100s every month. So they knew I still loved them. They knew I was still thinking about them. And at some point I still have them on my phone. I took pictures of them. I posted them on social media and stuff like that. And I will show you. I'll show you like what stuff I used to send them every month. And we'll talk about that stuff later too. Because that's all I was allowed to do was send them gifts. Couldn't visit them. Couldn't have visitation. Couldn't call them. Couldn't write them letters. Couldn't nothing. And that was because of the paternal family. Why do they kowtow to one family over another? Why do they pick one family over another? It's ridiculous. All right, this one's gone on for about 45 minutes. What are your thoughts on this? I really want to hear from people. Even if you're a foster parent, what are you doing to make the child's life better? Do you have a plan to adopt them? Do you have any plans to set up any security for them once they turn older? What are you doing? Do you really love these children? Is it a cross to bear? Or are you a savior? What is it? All right. Thanks all for watching. If you like my videos, sure as heck, like them, share them. Tell people about, I know there are hundreds of thousands of parents out there battling CPS and don't know where to go or what to do. And like I said, I may not have the answer, but I will find it. I will either research it or I'll find a person that can help you because we sometimes need help. There's a lot of parents that have this, oh my gosh, this foreboding about CPS coming to the door, but they really don't know what's going to happen and where it's going to go. And I would be in utter fear not knowing if my child was okay in a house. I don't know where it is. I can't go to it. I can't meet the foster parents. In a lot of cases, you can't meet the foster parents to know if they're a good person, because anyone can pretend to be a good person. Anyone can. Even CPS. CPS are the best pretenders. What do they say about the government? We're here to help? No. CPS is never here to help. Not like they used to. They're here to hurt. They're here to inflict as much pain as they can. And they will. And they like it. And when else another time we'll talk about the psychology of a CPS worker. I think those with a heart and a soul get out of it. And those that are lacking those stay in it and go up the ranks. That's my belief. But we'll talk about that later. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. And like I said, come to my channel. I have a lot of things to talk about. This will be a series of CPS and all the corruption behind it. All right. Thanks. Bye.